Today, you will see no gameplay. If you're looking for actual gameplay and you want to watch these towers in their natural habitat, go check out my individual tower series where I go over every single video in existence. That being said, hello and welcome, my friends, to another Kingdom Rush Alliance, not Origins video. We are going to go over all of the heroes today and let you know if you should be buying any of the not-so-free towers. That being said, the easiest way to understand how good a tower is based on my made-up and hopefully reasonably well understood after playing the game like 4 or 5 times rating system. So we're going to go and press boop, and that's my answer. This is how good every single tower is in their entirety based on everything that I have dear to my heart here. With 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, these are my scores. To start off, I just want to say that I feel like they did a really good job with the tower balance. I feel like there's no tower that specifically is overpowered up the wazoo, except for maybe Arcane Wizard against bosses. That's probably the only one. And then, other than that, though, all the towers feel very fair and free, and the most interesting thing about all of this is that I did not know that any of the towers were not free when I made these reviews. So, I want to go over those towers, I want to go over the paid towers, and ask you guys whether or not, or give you the answer on whether or not I think it's worth it for you to buy them. To be straight, you can beat the entirety of the game without any of them. But it will be much easier to beat the final level if you have the Grim Wraiths. So that's kind of a problem, admittedly. It'll make the game way, 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 way easier to have the Grim Wraiths. And without the Grim Wraiths, you can still beat it, but it makes things more complicated, or at least a little more convoluted. So, any which way, these are one of the only towers that I would say if you really want to just beat the last level and you're really struggling, like this is going to be your answer, but that's an upsetting way to have to buy a tower. It almost feels like a jerk move from Ironhide to make you do that. So that's the only one that I'm kind of upset about. Other than that, everything is completely fair and reasonable. So let's go over my rating systems really quickly. First of all, let's talk about let's talk about them in order, actually. The Royal Archers are very good at just doing standard damage, but they're outclassed by almost everybody else, and that's why they deserve a 4. Not because they're actually bad, but they're just not as good as the other ones. Then we go to the Paladin Covenant, which is the best blocker in the game, just straight up. They're gonna block things, and they do their job really, really well. Coming up into the Arcane Wizard, which got a frickin' 9 from me, which means that it's gotta be good. And again, it's great because it's the easiest boss killer in the game. It does just straight up regular old damage without doing anything fancy. And you know what? Maybe that's boring, but boring can still be good. Then we come up to the Tri-Cannon, which all of the artillery in this game is going to be frickin' beastly. It does, like, just as much damage, if not more damage, than oftentimes the regular, like, archers. So, like, obviously you need archers to do damage to flying towers, or flying units, but other than that, artillery's just freaking awesome, dude. So, Tri-Cannon, pretty solid kind of across the board here, but you do need to go for some pretty high-level artillery to actually make it worthwhile. Ballista, my favorite tower in the game. I give it a 9.5, the only tower in the entire game that's a 9.5. And again, these are all free towers here that got good ratings. We got a 9, an 8, a 9.5 here. So those are 3 of your towers right there that you can make the entirety of the game with. Basically work. If you just build those three free hero towers, you're going to be totally, totally fine. So, before I get too much further, I just want to mention that I am not a shill for Ironhide. I could give 2 craps if you pay money to Ironhide, but I want to give you guys the most based and fair reviews that I possibly can. So, let me know how I'm doing. You know, in the comments below if you think I'm stupid or an idiot. Like feel free. Adjust me. Okay. Moving on, we've got the Arborean Emissary, who I think is the worst tower in the game. It's supposed to be a support mage tower, but because the damage is just so frickin' insanely low, it's very difficult to use. The Bramble Grasp is kind of just weird. You really have to combine them together with, like, artillery in a weird way, with other barracks units, other stuff. It's kind of like a late-game weird mage tower that I just can't really find to be used properly. But it's supposed to make them weaken. It's supposed to weaken the enemies. I just find it to not really matter that much that they're weakened. How else to put it. Any which way, moving on to the Demon Pit. It's a very fair tower, kind of right in the middle range of being interesting and not just a straight barracks in some different way. But you don't get to control where they shoot out or how they shoot out, and they don't shoot out until the unit actually comes in range, so sometimes it's a little too little, a little too late. Then on top of the fact that they just freaking die means that the stalling aspect of the Demon Pit is not as good as it probably should be. So because I like to use barracks units as stallers, this is not my style at all, but I still gave it a mid rating. Just gave it a freaking 5. All right, coming up into our first paid tower of the... I want to say hero every single time. First paid tower of the run here, the Battle Brewmasters. They're actually really cool. Specifically, the right-sided upgrade is pretty freaking awesome. The Bad Batch does a ton of damage, stalling, poisons people, but I don't really like the Elixir of Might personally. He's fine, but he's a little too expensive for what he does, and who really cares if you have one extra staller unit? You know, it's just whatever. Build a Paladin Covenant instead, or build something else that can stall just a little bit to make this guy more meaningful, but either which way, very, very, very strong. Very good group damage. One of the better artillery towers of the game here, but because I didn't like this ability, I didn't give him as high of a rating as I would have thought. But same as the Tri-Cannon, in my opinion. I could use these guys interchangeably, but I think the Battle Brewmasters do individual damage a little better with their regular attack. Well, you kind of need to go for the abilities to get the Tri-Cannon to actually get its full effect out of it. Moving on to the Necromancer, clearly one of the best mage towers in the game. I gave it another 9. You get that stalling power, you get the magic damage, you get the build up here, but it is a paid tower. So if you want, Arcane Wizard's going to be just good enough for you, but the Necromancer definitely makes things more interesting and fun. I think the fun level definitely comes into play here instead of just the goodness quality of it. So Necromancer, in my opinion, if you're going to buy a tower, think about the Necromancer, okay? Definitely think about the Necromancer. Moving on to the Elven Stargazer. I don't want to say it's balls, but it's smelly. It's shaped like a round object kind of connected to each other in a sack. Okay, that's about... I'm just messing. The Elven Stargazer is okay. I can't use it very well. I don't know how else to say it. You really need to get the Elven Stargazer to be combined together with the Rising Star to be good, and you need to hit a lot of tiny units to make sure that they burst damage all over the place, and that just doesn't happen much. It's the only tower with the teleportation, so if you're looking for some teleportation action, like, sure. But other than that, I don't know, man. It does not do damage well, and that just means it's kind of poopy in my book. Moving on to the Dwarven Flamespitter. So, again, this is a paid tower, so, like, just don't buy it. Just straight up. Just don't. Just trust me on that. It looks cool. It's not good. Dwarven Flamespitter, though. Bringing the heat in a battle. This is a cool one. I think that's the main thing about it, is that it's freaking cool. If shooting out giant flaming ridiculousness on everything. Got really cool abilities here that do tons of damage. It's rock solid in my book. I gave it an 8.5, so I think it deserves it easily. Moving on to the Dune Sentinels. In my opinion, it's hard to say that this guy isn't worth it. But by the way, the 8.5 is shared between the Flamespitter and this thing, so if you're curious here. It's hard to say that these guys are bad in any way, shape, or form, and I think the coolest part about it is the fact that you can do this weird gold thing with it. Like, it's really difficult to make it work for you, but if you can make it work, it's really freaking cool. Alright, and it's probably one of the most interesting abilities in the entire game. Not necessarily the best ability, but definitely one of the most interesting abilities in the game. That's what makes these guys fun to use. But they do have a lot of damage output. They've got a pretty low price tag, and honestly, if you don't like ballistas for some reason, Dune Sentinels are an easy trade out. If I was going to buy somebody, probably be Necro, probably be Dune Sentinels, or maybe a combo of both of those if I really wanted to. Moving on to Rocket Gunners. You know, this is a tower that I don't find myself using all that much, but I see and understand how good they can be. And I see why people are going to like the Rocket Gunners. So personally, I'd probably put them a little closer to 8, 7.5, but I just can't do it because I'm probably going to get hate for it. So I gave them an 8.5. Don't hate me, all right? So any which way, their pride is the missile that can kill guys up to 900 health. It says 300 here, but it's 900 if you get the 3rd tier. And that's cool. Just have it just warp guys out of existence like that with a pretty low cooldown of like 12-point-something seconds. I like them. I think they're cool. I think they're fun. I think they're very strategic. And the only thing about them is that they are decently micro-intensive. Decently, depending on how you use them. So keep that in mind. Coming up with the Eldritch Channeler. So this is not a paid tower, by the way, even though it looks like it should be a paid tower. What's weird about it is it's kind of like a weird combination of different towers that have existed before, like the Wild Magus Tesla Tower kind of situation, where it's like supposed to do more damage over time, or even the what's that laser tower called? I forget what it's called, but the big laser tower instead of the Wild Magus. It just, like, beams things with 4 different things from Vengeance. It's weird, but it ends up not being as powerful as you would have imagined. It just does not do as much damage as something like the Arcane Wizard or the Necromancer, and it doesn't have all of the benefits of the other things that you can get with it. And you forced to get this guy up to 4th tier with all 3 power overflows to make it worth it. You're pretty much forced into it. You gotta go max Eldritch Channeler, or this guy is garb. And that definitely takes away from him a little bit, so I can only give him an 8. Coming up on the last paid tower of the game, we've got the Grim Wraiths. So this guy has very little attack, he's got some health, he's got some armor. It's kind of weird. It's such a weird tower, but it does have one thing going for it, the trading spots. If you use that to your advantage, you can make this one of the best tower loadouts ever. Alright, just to swap your really, really strong tower, move them across the map as guys are coming through or whatnot. It gets kind of ridiculous. It almost takes away from the strategy aspect of the game sometimes if you're really going to end up using crazy micro to make stuff like this happen. But either which way, I kind of like that they put it in the game anyways, but it's unfortunate that it is a paid tower because it does make the final boss, like I mentioned earlier, way, way, way easier to have them. And when I unlocked them on the Steam version, I was like, okay, this must be part of the game. And when I found out it was a paid hero, I was actually kind of upset. I was kind of upset for the people who don't get to use this against the final boss because my strategy revolved a lot around these guys. And without it, I would have to develop a different strategy, basically. Make a new video on it. But either which way, as far as all the paid towers are concerned, I could go for most of them. I could go for the Dune Sentinels, I could go for the Necromancer, I could go for the Brewmaster, but I'd probably stay away from the Elven Stargazer, and then I'm upset that I have to buy the Grim Wraiths. I really hope that if they do one thing, they just make this guy free. Make it free. Do it. Make money from the other ones, but don't make us pay for the Grim Wraiths. It's actually a pretty big complaint in my book here that the Grim Wraiths are not free. But either which way. Either which way. That is my total review of all of the towers and which ones I think you should buy. Like I said, if you're very limited on money, if you just want to buy one, I'd go Necro, I'd go Dune Sentinels. Dune Sentinels are going to be more fun, Necromancer is going to be more cool, Brewmasters are going to be kind of interesting to use, but they're just as good as the other artillery, so don't feel like you need it in any way, shape, or form. Either which way, if this helped you guys in deciding which one you should buy, please press the like button. I'd really appreciate that. Please subscribe as well. I'm trying to get 100k subscribers over here so I can get a second silver play button. And then let me know in the comments below what I got wrong. You know, I'm always down to learn and figure things out together. So let me know in the comments what I got wrong or what you enjoyed about the video. And of course, have a super duper delicious day.